And before we begin the next session, which is going to be presentation on land and language, I invite John Nichols to say just a few words to bundle up some of the things that we said earlier when we do area.
Thank you, Suzanne. It's a wonderful discussion, a beginning dialogue of telling our stories among ourselves, rediscovering that which we have in common. And it reminded me of a time when I raised two sons. And I mentioned that we went to powwow quite often, as a lot of you do. I remember one time having my oldest son with me. And a woman turned to us and asked, are you Indian? I said, well, yes, I am. And she says, well, are you reservation Indian or are you city Indian? And I looked at my son. I said, we're Indian. And she says, okay. It's a kind of a cautionary tale that as we discover and rediscover who we are, and the story that we come to tell of that lineage and progression, we need to take care not to make judgments about who we are and who we think we are not. That tends to be divisive. We are one people who happen to find ourselves in various circumstances. Many of us had no choice but to find ourselves where we are in urban areas or in living in families that are finding it so difficult to make connections with others because there's no community with which to hold on to. And so we need to take great care, particularly in the discussion with our children, not to make judgments among ourselves as to what's better and what's worse, but there are differences. Anishi.
I'd like to invite the first group of speakers to come up. It's going to be Ian McCallan, and I believe by Zoom, Rihanna Snake, and definitely Rose Snake, person, along with from Princeton University, Catalina Mendez-Vallejo, Ari Atia, who reported a short little piece, and Joseph Gonzalez. Please come on up.
I have the pleasure of starting, just to provide some context, but I do want to reflect on Velma's words because it's what is the institution doing for us? So we give all the knowledge to the institution, and what's the reciprocity there? And I think this presentation is sort of an update of how that can start to happen. So I hope that you're able to take that away from this. My co-presenter, Rihanna, is online, and if she feels comfortable, feel free to jump in, Rihanna. But this is an update, the second year of the Land and Language Princeton Summer Internship and Munsee Delaware Nation. We work with the Language of the Americas class at Princeton. I work with Suzanne to provide students in the class an opportunity to engage with Munsee Delaware knowledge. So I thought I'd provide a little background that it's sort of initiated through a project that we were working with the Kinamantuan education body in Ontario, and that is a group of 24 First Nation communities, or sorry, 25 First Nation communities that came together, and they had a special fund in which you could develop projects with your community to share some knowledge. And it was a land-based project. And they wanted connections with language, culture, history, and environment. They had multiple meetings in area First Nation communities in Ontario. And the idea that we struck upon as the Munsee Delaware group was to create a path between the community center and the band office. And that's about approximately 1 kilometer short of but it goes through some rather thick forest that is culturally and environmentally significant in southwestern Ontario. It's a very specific kind of forest. With that, we also connected with local land trusts, biologists, naturalists, and all types of other groups in outside of the Munsee Delaware community. So the collaboration included Rose behind me here, Rose Snake, Rihanna Snake, myself. There was also a lot of other Munsee Delaware community members. Past council members were also part of the project. Current council members have been part of the project. We spread the net to include artists, chefs, nutritionists within our community so that they could weigh in terms of the benefits of the natural world at Munsee, Delaware. And it's an ongoing project. I can't tell you that it's done. I can tell you that we haven't met in over a year, but it's one of those things that's still on people's minds and that we're working to forward this while all of us maintain our full-time work and taking care of our families. We've engaged with the Language of the Americas at Princeton. So in the fall of 2024, we worked with students there to engage them in putting down the phones and going outside. And I challenged them back in 2024 to go sit outside for half an hour. I was in no phone.
Challenge.
This wasn't my idea. I was challenged to do the exact same thing when I went back and took some, when I completed my master's in Indigenous education. The instructor said, go sit outside. So go sit outside. That doesn't make any sense from a Western education standpoint. Give me an essay to write or put stuff on the board and I'll take it down as notes. But to go sit outside and think about things and be present in nature. And so I sprang that on the surprise group of students, I think last year, to go out and be part of nature, right? Disconnect from the device and go explore, right? Do what you would have done probably as a kid. And so they went out to the Institute Woods. Some of them went to other places that were close to their home because they went back for a reading week this week. And they went and explored the forests of Massachusetts. But to their credit, they all went out and they tried to reconnect with nature in their own way. And I gave them an opportunity to go, okay, so we're looking at the trees and plants, we're looking at the names for those trees and plants. I want you to go out and look at those trees, describe what you see, describe what you find, and work through language in your own way. How would you describe the tree if you were to work through it in terms of a language and you didn't know and you couldn't just, look at the Peterson Field Guide of trees and find it, right? So how would you describe the tree to everyone else? And in June 2025, we walked through the Ridgeview Conservancy with two summer intern students looking specifically at the plants and trees that are located there. I offer this to everyone, and I say this often, that the plants and trees here don't speak English. They've had to learn English. English is their second language. They probably learned other languages along the way from newcomers to this area, just like in Canada. But those plants and trees speak the Indigenous languages to here, whether that be the Unami dialect or whether that be the Munsee dialect. So when you're going out and you're talking to the plants and trees, you're forcing them to understand in English. And that's why it's so critical to connect with the land in your original language, because that's how what the land understands. I thought I'd share just a picture for everyone in terms of the context of the trail. This is in behind our powwow grounds back home. So the trail essentially goes off mid-picture and goes off towards the top of the photo towards the community center. But it highlights how similar the forests are here to back home, because it's the Carolinian forest. We have a lot of species of the same trees, same plants north of the border that you do here in Princeton. And it's my turn to pass the line. Thank you.
To say anything?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is you.
Okay.
Okay, so I just wanted to have a couple minutes just to give you a little bit of context in terms of the kind of work that my students did this summer. And so there's a program at Princeton that is called Program for Community Engaged Scholarship, and here you can see kind of the goals of the program, and it's been created to support academic collaborations and reciprocity between Princeton faculty, staff, students, and community partners. So the kind of work that Yana and I are doing together, and then with the students and with the community members, really fits in well with the mission of this program. So they've been very, very supportive with us. And they have an internship, which is called the Darien Summer Internship. And in this program, students are meant to join as community engaged scholars. They work directly with Darien faculty members and community partners. So in the case of our project, Suzanne and I were the faculty mentors. And then Ian was the leading community partner here, but also we were relying on Rose and Rihanna for the work. There's another point that is important here to mention is that they participate in regular process training. What that means is that they have to do a lot of workshops to understand what community engagement means and to kind of, as Ian was saying, trying to think about learning outside of that Western view that we're very used to here at the university setting. And there you can see some of the themes from past projects from process. So there's anything from language reclamation, revitalization, through filmmaking, oral history, policy, agriculture, environmental work, curriculum development. So they really have a really wide list of different topics and themes. So for this summer, our project, this is the name of our project, is Indigenous Language Activism, Lunaape Land, Language and Belongings. And we had two students this summer, those two wonderful, wonderful students. One of them is Aria Dien, and he's unfortunately not able to join in person or on Zoom because he's in transit in Italy in some kind of school trip that he's doing right now. But he recorded a presentation for us, so I'm gonna play it soon. And there's his email address. So if you guys have any kind of feedback for him or any kind of comment, he'd love to receive it. He asked me to make sure to ask for that. So please do reach out to him. And then Joseph was right here. He's gonna end our presentation, and his efforts were devoted onto archival research. So Joseph is a history buff. He's really good at analyzing texts and really getting into historical documents. And so that was his goal. And that's his email as well. So if anybody wants to reach out to them, that's what it is. And I guess I'm just gonna play the video. Thank you.
At Princeton University, and I'd like to tell you all just a little bit about my project this past summer, which engaged the idea of preservation, protection, and revitalization of Munsee language, culture, land, and of course there's many pieces to it, but I hope that I can describe it through this lens of building trails. And of course there's many kinds of building trails. One of the most important kinds, in my opinion, is building connections with people. Now here you can see some amazing people who I was able to work with, including Ian McCullum, Rose and Rihanna Snake, those three of the Munsee Delaware Nation, as well as Rob Flory, a local conservationist in the Princeton area, and of course Dr. Suzanne Agbari and Dr. Carolina Mendez Vallejo, as well as Joseph, my dear friend to my left, who is a peer at Princeton and who worked with me in this project and worked on his own project, which I think you'll hear about in a second, or you may have just heard about, and I hope you all enjoyed that and asked him a ton of questions. But yes, all these people have been amazing people to connect with, amazing people to learn from. I've been fortunate enough to learn about Munsee, Delaware language, culture, history, and also about local forests in the Princeton area. And kind of piecing these together was a really big part of my project. So now to move on from building these trails in the form of connections, I'd like to talk about building trails in the form of building some actual trails out there in nature, right? On the left, you can see Dr. Patricia Shanley, who is another local conservationist who is really amazing and has done a ton of work with not only protecting these forests, but working with the young people you see on the right here, the Ridgeview Turtles, who are a young and kind of local group that engages with these ideas and with the conservation of forests. They're incredibly educated on these different species and how to protect the trees and plants of these local forests. They've also done projects to educate other people. They have also engaged in kind of trying to get rid of invasive species that are trying to kind of take over these spaces. And they've also built trails so that people can visit these spaces and appreciate the lovely nature. However, when I was walking these trails, I think something really came up for me. And it was this idea that when we're building these trails, there's something that's still lacking. And for me, that's this idea of, native language, culture, and understanding and practices, which we still are lacking in these spaces. And that's where Ian McCullum comes in, who I'm sure you all have already heard from him and heard about his project with making these nature trails at the Munsee Delaware Nation. Now, while his work is distinct and different and at a different stage than these trails, my job and really my goal in this project is to connect these and find the places where each of these opportunities can really learn from each other, where we can bring Munsee understanding and wisdom and knowledge into these spaces in Central Jersey and make sure that especially young people are able to better understand the lands that they're living on. And of course, bring the ideas that we have down here in Central Jersey and bring those up to Ontario as well. So that's really what my job is in this project and what I feel like I need to continue working on. And as you'll probably notice, this is a job that's going to require a lot of support and a lot of ideas. And that's where all of you come in. I would really love to get your ideas, your support, or just, your questions if you're at all interested. Of course, you can reach out to me. My email is aa3994@princeton.edu. Once again, aa3994@princeton.edu. And you can also talk to my colleagues who are there in person and get my contact info. You can ask them any questions. But again, this is an opportunity that we really find very important for many reasons, both because of, the revitalization of Munsee language, culture, and land, as well as the connection to young people. These trails have an opportunity to create a space that's anxiety-free, that's screen-free, that is wisdom-rich, and which people can truly learn so much that they are not able to learn elsewhere. And as you can see in this picture here, it leads to some deep thinking as well. Rob Flory on the right here and Dr. Akbari on the left are pictured here in deep thought in these local forests. And in all seriousness, we find these opportunities to be special, important, and we really believe that they can make a huge difference. So please reach out to me if you have any questions, or if you want to get involved, we would love to have you. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to all my collaborators who have helped me so much in this process. Thank you very much.
And so now, Joseph, you're going to share also a few brief words about your experience, and then we're going to end with Rihanna, if she's able to talk online, and Rose will close out this section of the session.
Well, hello, thank you for having me. I don't know how I'll live up to many of the speakers, especially the one to my left right here. I had a brief presentation, but that's fine because even though I prepared an 11-page speech, I was told I only had 5 minutes. I just wanted to say, I took this work very seriously. But my name is Joseph Gonzalez. I am a veteran transfer student. That's why I look a lot older. I look like the grandfather out there with the Ridgeview Turtles. And I must say, it was a pleasure working with Rob Flory and Patricia from Ridgeview, who have infatigable energy. And I still haven't recovered from the trails of this summer. So whenever I could, I would resort to my preferred learning mode, especially at this age, which is reading. I must say there was already a lot of reading given by our professors to try to catch us up, especially with our museum work. Looking at objects as communal members was enlightening, and it's really changed how I perceive things. But through my archival work, I can similarly invite you on a journey with me. Some of you may be more experienced with the land that I'm about to speak about, but even so, we're going back in time that neither of us is familiar with. We're going back nearly 2 centuries, and my work focused on, you look on the screen right here, Peter Jones's diary, who lived from 1802 to 1856, though his diary doesn't quite cover the last part of his life. It's very truncated at the end. What I'm gonna do is also give you some resources to access this, because it was something inspired by Mark Peters, who we had to watch his YouTube videos, who created this idea of accessibility to Munsee knowledge that kept no one out. He invited all comers. He also had a lot of books. I read a lot of them, including Herb Welder's Moravian Mission, as well as T.D. Uskin, king of the Delaware book, who was a Nami. So we begin with the diary, a diary that basically consists in broad two parts. You have a much larger 1825 to 1838 actual dictation where he constantly updates the diary. And then this 1839 to 1849 period, which is the final chapter, which is put together by his wife, Eliza. She's British, he marries her in England, she comes back here, a newcomer to your community. She'll even put together a book about the history of the Ojibwe later on. But there's a reason why he kind of falls off at the end, and it's not purely because of health reasons, because the diary ends in 1849, he dies in 1856. So access to this diary can be accessed through Princeton University Library or the Internet Archive. You can just Google, it will come up. There was a methodology to how this was done, and I can share that information with anyone who wants it. You can just take down my email here. Peter Jones is going to constantly refer to the Munsee as MUNCEY. Sorry, outside perspective. Yellow is gonna highlight any Munsee mentions, light blue will highlight locations, so you can kind of orient yourself, and red highlights names, and green highlights general information about these contacts. Basically to push forward, what we see here when you go through the diary is that, and we've heard it spoken about today, is this continuous struggle. At the time that Peter Jones is doing his missionary work, there's not just the displacement that has gone on. At the beginning of his missionary work, it's 1825, it's just 10 years removed from the War of 1812, which we've heard mentioned. We're 7 years away from what's gonna be a shock to a lot of indigenous communities, which is they're gonna witness the Cherokee removal in 1832. But what we see here is the spiritual struggle as people are trying to spread their beliefs, and people such as Captain Snake, Chief Captain Snake, he's gonna possess, I don't know, they're related to Rose Snake, but she's a fighter too, so I wouldn't find that hard to believe. He's gonna say, like, I just believe in the old ways, the way my father and my grandfather believed, you know. And says he has nothing against Christianity, he just refuses to change, though we will see two chiefs convert, Chief George Turkey being one of them. So that is the context of this position. Peter Jones is an Ojibwe chief. He is a missionary. He's able to communicate to the Munsee community through Chippewa, which is something I found interesting. That's exactly how he says it. He speaks English, he says that they can't follow, and then when he speaks in Chippewa, he's able to attract the attention of at least 200 Munsee. There is a religious split that happens even in his own church. The Wesleyan Baptists, they split between the American branch and the British branch. And this is going to just end his writing. His wife is gonna summarize in chapter 14 of the diary, from 1839 to 1849. So 1839 to 1849. One of the key details that I'll bring up very quickly is he sets up the Munsee Industrial School. And it literally says 1849, busy with the preliminaries of the Munsee Industrial School. We've heard this brought up because the controversy exists around the Munsee Delaware Industrial School, which will become known as the Mount Elgin Industrial School, which will use indigenous children labor. But during this period, he was superintendent among the Munsees, and all that information, that decades-long period where he's a superintendent on Munsee land, in Munsee town, is lost to us. I know Dr. Akbari is looking good records, but this shows that we have so much more work to do. To sum up, hopefully, I will continue to be part of this group. But either way, I know Dr. Akbari and Dr. Vallejo will take this work forward. I engaged in the work under the hope with Ian's directive to hopefully elucidate from his diary where some of these objects were. But because of the missing period, because he doesn't talk about that, we couldn't really glean it, but there was an idea of trying to track down. So this is where the institution, I know it's not enough, but it's trying to get back. We're trying to find things that can only come from the primary sources written over 170 years ago. I want to thank all our community partners, from Trish and Rob, for working with us and giving us a fantastic experience and trying to maintain the land as it once was. And to thank you to our Munsee community members who have been so accommodating, allowing us to work on this. I want to say thank you to Ian, Rose, and Rihanna, Snake, and all of you gathered here for even allowing me to speak. There is still a lot to learn. That's something that will continue going forward, even in your community. And to have an opportunity to gather like this and share this knowledge is true communal learning. I don't know how authoritative these books are. Robert Grumman, this is one of the required readings on Munsee history, came up. And I followed his work. I know this has been touched on as well, from Manhattan to Menacing. And it goes over all the Lenape place names that still mark this land from the Hudson Valley to Southern Jersey and all the areas on the periphery and everything in between. As a New Yorker, a descendant of immigrants, as it was said earlier, it was something I never knew. And I wish I could tell you I'm the only one who doesn't know the story about the land that is beneath their feet. But knowing what I know now, I believe that Munsee history is a history everyone should learn. Thank you.
Last words. I don't know if Rihanna might like to add a few words via Zoom, and Rose will also close out this part of the session. Is Rihanna booked in?
Yeah, Maria's on it.
Oh, very good, thank you. Want to get started?
Okay, it was really good working with these students. Joseph is, he's a,
Can you grab my charger? It's in my tote bag or my black bag.
okay, like it said, it was a really
Laptop. Yeah. You can hear me.
good, go ahead.
Just give it a hard time, so
Sorry, I can't hear.
I want to tell Rihanna she's not muted. We hear her. Yeah.
Okay, I thought so. I'm
It's nap time.
Just to like add on to what Ian was saying about our project, we definitely want like more like younger kids and like teenagers to be doing these projects with us to start helping with like the cleanup of getting these pathways between the the community center to the powwow grounds. But yeah, no, we were just like, we were thinking more of like the teenagers being like kind of like leaders to like these students or like kids who are, I don't remember what age we said, but we would want them to like work together as a team to like do the like cleaning up and like learning what are the native plants and what aren't, and what are the invasive plants that have been like getting into our forests and stuff. Oh, and then also what I was thinking that we should be doing or like adding onto the pathways when we do have it cleared is for the native plants to have little QR code plaque things. So then people can find out more information about those plants and trees. But yeah, that's pretty much all that I have to say.
Like I was beginning to say, working with these youth was it was good. I learned a lot from them as following them around, going through the woods like during the rain. Suzanne didn't care if we walked in the rain. So sometimes I'd stop, I'd just go on, you guys go, you do your thing and I'll wait here for you. But I was gonna ask Joseph, the article, could you send it to us so we can read the whole 11?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay, and it was great working with you, and I'd still like to continue. It's like you said about learning, well, it starts with the youth and even us older people, we still have to learn. And I learn from them every day on my cane.
Appreciate that whole group. I'm really hopeful that work is gonna continue and keep growing, and I really appreciate what Rose said about and Rihanna too, about the importance of youth from the nations that are in Ontario right now, but also younger people here in the area. Next group that's gonna be speaking through the marvels of technology, and this is a good moment for me to say some thanks that I never said yesterday or the day before. Thanks to Maria Tria, who's managing the Zoom, and to Dane over there, who is managing all the AV. And I'm so grateful for the ability to be able to talk together and bring people together in this way. It's a moment where technology that often doesn't serve people is right now serving people in a big way. Really grateful to you guys. The next group speaking will be Kristen Jacobs and Barry Stonefish, who couldn't be here in person, but they will be joining us online together with Rob Floyd. Rob, will you come up here if you don't mind? Because after Kristen and Barry share online, and Melissa will forward their slides, maybe you'll add some thoughts that follow on.
I had to.
Hope you're not driving like.
Kwinganawaloma, Dilnochamakwak Nuit Kochkwak, and HULUNIIXSUWAAKAN ni Namanitowi Ashinzian Loanachen Ochkwe, Shuk and Shishwanakwian, Kristen Jacobs Ashinzian, and ni Nonchiai Alnaapahkiing Gawit, Wak Dami Minzi Tekwa, or not Tekwa, Week Chow. I'm trying to here. Oh my goodness. So yes, I was just sharing my spirit name is Northwind, and Kristen Jacobs is my English name. I'm from Delaware Nation, and I am Wolf Clan, Maha Takwa. And Wanhani Guisis.
Kwinganawaloma, Nations Berry, Ninonjiai, Alnaapahkiing Lakawit, Nidami Minzi Weekchow. What I said was just, hello everyone, my name's Barry, I'm from Delaware Nation, and my clan is Wolf Clan, not Turtle Clan.
And we don't have 12 pages of notes. We might have 10. So we put some pictures together from our trip down to New Jersey in August. I had heard from Rob in the spring, and he had talked to me about a place in New Jersey, Hopewell, where Nomad's Pizza is located, and that, you know, they were interested in doing some a garden and including the Three Sisters plants in their garden, and just about maybe adding some signage to it and coming down and visiting the site. And so we start kind of planning that and thought that August would be a good time, you know, depending on how things were going in my own life. And so we decided on a week, and he added a few more stops throughout the days that we were there. Nomads was going to be our first stop. And that's what you can see here in the pictures are the beginning of the Three Sister Gardens. And there is a kind of a little write-up about it, and there's a link to a video to, I believe it's an Oneida elder speaking about Three Sisters plants. And we talked about creating some more videos using Lenape people and talking about the plants and how we still plant those today. I'm a Delaware language teacher, and Rob we call him Farmer Rob, which is Farmer Rob. And whenever we see him at the symposium, he always has something to share with us, whether that be corn seeds or bean seeds. And I'm able to take those and grow them with my own students. And so we were excited about coming down to Jersey. We shot a few videos at Nomads. Barry was part of that. He didn't shoot his video right at Nomads. He went across the street. You want to kind of talk about
Oh yeah, so the videos we were making were for was it for the kids you said?
Yeah, for the youth
Yeah, the
in
youth.
New Jersey.
Youth of New Jersey. So I thought it was kind of important to convey that like it's like common misconception that we are like a people of the past, and that's like kind of like the status quo. But I thought it'd be good to show, you know, a youth in a public place like the library that everyone goes to, and just show that like we're still around, we do normal things everyone else does, and yeah.
Yeah, just that we're much more than what they see maybe in their their textbooks at school, which tend to focus mostly on like our earlier life before contact. So just like, you know, to kind of show like iach katapina, we are still very much here. So the next day we can flip a slide here. We met at Rob's, and Rob has taken some of our traditional white corn and pounded it into flour and showed us how to make our own tortillas. And it was kind of like a farm to table breakfast kind of thing that we did. And later that day, we can click the slide. We visited a couple land trusts. Ones that Rob helps take care of, and he showed us the corn that he was growing. I think there's like a huge wahawau field of sunflowers. Barry brought his wheat the Wamuk Jane, and Suzanne came along with us too. I don't know if you want to share a little bit about those that specific area there, Rob.
Sure. This particular spot is at Fairgrown Farm, which is in the Pennington area of Hopewell Township. I asked them for some space to grow Pu'em corn in addition to another place I have, because it's nice in case there's a disaster at one location to sort of spread things around. And as I got talking to them about planting the corn there, eventually they hired me when they heard I could fix their corn planter. But anyway, we visited, and the fields those two fields, the sunflowers and the corn, are next to each other. And the corn that is in the lunch and dinner today are from that field. And we also, some friends of the group here helped me pick a bunch of ears for the braiding activity at the seed farm later.
We can click the slide.
Oh, sure.
So the second one we visited, one thing, like some things that stood out for me were about the deer population. When we arrived to Princeton area, we seen like 5 or 6 deer, and I just thought, God, that's so uncommon to see that many deer during the day. And I believe they shared that there was like 100 or 200 deer per square mile in that area. And, you know, taking care of the forest, like all of the non-native invasive species that they have to work with, that are taking over because the deer and the animals are only eating the native plants to the area. So that kind of makes the non-native plants be more so invasive. And just walking through their bush, like normally you're used to like a shaded canopy, but this bush had like just huge, like big areas where like the sun was just coming through because all their black ash trees were being destroyed. And then seeing them try to put a fence up to keep there was like a fenced in area in the bush that was like, you know, to try to keep the deers out from eating the native plants, you know, to try to get them growing more. But I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, Rob. I was taking pictures. One of the folks on the on our hike was showing me this app where you could just take a picture of the plant and it'll give you all the information. So those were a couple of the pictures that I took. Did you want to add anything to that, Rob?
Sure, I think this, these shots are from the Friends of Hopewell Valley Open Space Preserve, just west of Hopewell Borough, which happens to sit right next to a well-documented Lenape site. And on the left is one of the sumacs, and that's the plant that we can make a nice drink with, which I think we'll be having with one of our meals today. I guess at this point, since we're talking about Friends of Hopewell Valley Open Space, and you mentioned deer, I want to say that our executive director, Jen Rogers, is here with us today. She's among my local friends who have expressed interest in and also showed patience for the pace of working with the communities in terms of establishing relationships, and then thinking about a project rather than like making a project and saying, hey, do you want to come visit our project? Along with our other, some of our other friends, Jen has showed a sustained interest in what you all are doing, what you all are interested in doing to express yourselves on the land here in the homelands.
So this was when we visited, is it the Sauerland South African Museum?
Close, Stroudsburg Sauerland African American Museum.
Oh, okay. Sauerland.
It's a very big mouthful. We call ourselves SAM for short. And you might have met our executive director, Anita, who came on Thursday for the history portion. I had my history hat on that day. And also our board vice president, Bruce Daniels, is here with us today. So maybe you can catch up with him at lunch. And go ahead and tell your story, Kristen.
Sure. So they gave us a tour of the area. There were some gardens where, again, they're growing some plants that were unique to Munsee people, and also plants that are unique to their own people. And we had a discussion about how at one time Munsee people and their people lived alongside in that area. And they talked about how they want to do a land acknowledgement, but felt like they wanted to do more, like give their land acknowledgement more meaning, by, bringing Munsee people in, to chat with them and learn more about each other. We got to see inside their church that's there. Could you click, Rob? I got a couple pictures from inside there. So this was inside their church, and they told us a story about this baseball league, and the guy in front of Barry here is wearing one of the jerseys from that, and they were called the Black Yankees. So it was a team, it was like a league that was alongside the regular league and had almost the same teams, only they were all black, and like this guy, he's called the Black Yankees, and that was something that we had never heard of. And they actually have like a whole display about that on the side there, and it was just interesting to hear their stories of struggle, and just being able to like we feel those things too, but in other ways, and just like really being able to make that connection with them. They were lovely folks there. We can click to the next, and if you want to add anything about them, Rob, by all means.
Sure, real quick. So two important missions that we have at SAM that seem to align with what y'all are trying to do is, one, tell the real history, not the sanitized history. And two, actually a very important part of our work is providing a space where Black Americans can reconnect with the land because they had a similar, a parallel disturbance through white supremacy and enslavement of, disrupting their relationship with the land, which was thousands of years of self-determination on the land, growing things the way, the things that they needed, the way they needed to. And there was a great disruption in that. And that's caused there to be a lot of stigma around farming. Some of our members, embrace it fully, and some still feel like the stories that they heard from their, ancestors about, what life was like on the farm, and why would I want to do that? So that's a sort of an important part of what we're trying to do here at SIM.
So one part of the trip that we were really looking forward to is going back to the canal that we had canoed and kayaked in during the summer gathering. During IAS's summer gathering, I think that was 2 summers ago, we were able to all go up and do some canoeing and kayaking. And so me, Suzanne, Rob, Barry, these are some of the pictures. We like to call it Turtle Town because so many turtles come out to say hello when we're there. Did you want to add anything about the canoe trip?
Turtles are probably my favorite part.
The turtles, yeah, the turtles are definitely. And there's even I was telling one of my students that there's, I can't think of who the author is, but
Something that's great about the Turtle Town.
yeah, there's a young adult book about I can't think of what it's called, but if I remember, I will get it back to you. And there's a map in there of the area, and one of the places is called Turtle Town, and it was along the river, so we thought that might be connected to that maybe. You can click, Rob. So Rob has his own pizza oven. And my son Barry is all about pizza, so one of the things was going to be that we were going to do a dough from the corn flour, and Rob was really good at showing us how to do everything from scratch. So again, another farm pizza thing that the kids really enjoyed. And I think that, yeah, that was, and we had a few other stops at different pizza places. Guitar centers, because Barry didn't bring his guitar and he needed to play the guitar. But yeah, Rob, if you want to add anything to that.
Well, it's fun to be able to tell young people in my neighborhood about Barry, and how, he's just like them. He loves pizza, he loves heavy metal. We had a great time at my friend's recording studio, watching Barry compare notes with my friend Chris about Barry's process of how he does his music on his phone, and how Chris does things in his studio. And so what I try to explain to people is that, Lenape people, they're just modern people like all of us, but they do have their own particular unique concerns. So my question, I've been coming to this for several years, is, how can us, sort of broader Princeton, Mercer County area, how can those of us that live here in the homelands, I was born here, I've spent my whole life here, I love the land here. How can we facilitate you all expressing yourselves here on the land and in museums and so on? And bringing Kristen down to meet some of our local people who was part of that process.
And Nishik, Rob, for just inviting us, something that was supposed to just, kind of start out as a little vacation for us turned into like a really great learning experience, and I'm able to take all that and bring it back to my classroom. And I've shown my students all the pictures and places we visited, and that hopefully one day they'll be able to come down and visit these places and meet all the great folks down there. Anishi. Oh.
I just wanted to add that this is from the Nomad Pizza Garden, and the squash, the pumpkin and the soup and the meals today are also from that garden.
Rob never goes anywhere without bringing things from
farmer.
To round out this presentation, Cheyenne Nicholas is going to share with us about her work with the HULUNIIXSUWAAKAN cooperative.
It's nice to be here today. There's a third generation of Munsee-speaking, which is proof that our family just never stops talking. And I'm going to continue that. So while we're setting up our presentations, I'm a farmer. I live in Virginia, which is very far outside of homeland, but we have very similar plants. Luckily, a lot of the plants that are native to this area are also native to where I live in Virginia, on Princeton land. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about the plants that we have there, and a little bit about the work that I do in diaspora and with other people in diaspora. So this presentation has a lot of photos from the farm that I've started with myself, my partner, and my diaspora community members in Virginia. So HULUNIIXSUWAAKAN Cooperative is a cooperative that mostly has, we're in Virginia, and we're mostly other people who are living outside of our communities of origin. I grow in an incubator space. We do a lot of collaborative projects. I'm gonna try to keep it short because I know we're all hungry, but this is a picture of me and what at one time I called our irrigation lead, this little small child here. But HULUNIIXSUWAAKAN means all of us in Lunaape and the Unami language. We're a mutual aid focused, sustainable, land-centered space. We're generally growing and distributing medicinal herbs and vegetables to our local community, as well as providing reciprocal learning, art, and storytelling opportunities for land-based healing. Our core values include justice, sustainability, and seventh generation thinking. A few of the ways this shows up in our operation include providing meeting space, growing space and herbs for BIPOC Herb Circle, providing farm and garden planning assistance to other folks doing land-based community work, and collaborating with farms led by folks with marginalized identities on product creation, marketing, and practices. We grow on a piece of land in a place that's currently called Verina, on Powhatan land, which is near the James River, which is where I've been farming, kind of near the James River in Virginia since 2019. For the next 2 years, we're doing an American Farmland Trust grant where we're working with our landmate to execute a grant to regenerate the soil using native plants and pastured poultry, which has brought me into a lot of research about plants that are native to the eastern woodlands. So we're about halfway through the 2-year project, and so we're cover cropping, mulching, running chickens on degraded land, testing the soil, removing non-native plants, and revitalizing the native plant populations at the farm. And this is me with a little soil testing. And these are our chickens. My landmate's farm is called Sweet Girls Pastured Poultry, so those are the Sweet Girls. I started doing seed work. I started farming in 2018, and I started really doing seed work in 2021. So I've been growing Munsee seed and Unami seeds, including Seisatsing, which I brought some corn today to share with people if anyone wants to take some home. I've grown the Munsee cornhill pole beans, the striped Maycon squash. I got my seeds initially from True Love Seeds in Pennsylvania and the Rockwood Seed Collection, and I just emailed and asked them. And they, True Love Seeds especially, will provide seeds to any Lenape people who email and ask. Which if anyone wants to do that, I can facilitate showing you the website or whatever. And then this year I'm also participating, we are also participating as a collective in the community seed selection project that the Utopian seed project in Asheville, North Carolina. And they're selecting, and we all actually in the Southeast are selecting crops for climate resilience, and we're using traditional heritage seeds from like people of the region. And so we're using Cherokee black beans that someone was growing, and when they started growing them, one day they started producing different colors. And so we're trying to select for the plants that grow best in drought, that do well on farms, and that people enjoy eating. This is pictures of my first time growing the Cherokee pole beans, or not Cherokee, the Munsee cornmeal pole beans, Cherokee black beans, and then this is the striped macaque squash. And then that's the Sing corn. So we partner with and volunteer with several organizations, including youth farms led by elders in our project housing communities. We do funding drives for farmers experiencing genocide worldwide, and we work with the BIPOC and Immigrant Herbalist Circle and a mutual aid apothecary. So those are some of the pictures from the work we've been doing the last year. And then I'm gonna like preview the workshop kind of that I'm leading this afternoon, like that we're really all gonna be leading together because we're all doing it together. So we'll be taking a gentle walk around the land at the Sea Farm to look at some of the native plants available to our people for food, arts, and medicine, and discussing our shared memories of these and other plants that can be found in the area. So I use the Unami words for some of the plants on the following slides based on the poster that Courtney and the Native Roots Farm Foundation did. They're also hosting a plant workshop this afternoon, and they'll talk more about the poster. And then I use the Lunaapahkiing dictionary, but now that I know Ian has that plant list, I'm gonna be bugging him for the words. Munsee words, yeah. So goldenrod was in full bloom where I was, but they got frost here. So, but we'll still be able to see it when we're walking around. Herbalists today use goldenrod to treat urinary tract infections, allergies, and sinus infections. You can make tinctures or teas out of it. The Unami word for goldenrod means like yellow flower. So when we're thinking about like kind of when Ian was talking about like walking around and looking at our environment and thinking about how we would describe plants, that's like what came up for me. Blue vervain is a native plant used today to treat many conditions, including insomnia, inflammation, anxiety, and nerve cell protection. It grows in moist meadows, thickets, and pastures, as well as riversides, marshes, ditches, and river bottom prairies. And we've had success cultivating this and letting it spread via rhizomes and wind-blown seeds. A lot of the plants that I'm showing today, some of them we know for sure we can see, and then some of them are just plants that I know grow in kind of these edge habitats, and so that we might be able to see in some of these places. And this is what the blue vervain would look like this time of year, kind of in their seed station. Evening primrose is a highly powerful medicinal plant, sometimes called a cure-all. It grows well in disturbed areas, and most parts of the plant are edible, including the roots and the leaves. And the oil of the plant is used by some as a dietary supplement. It's really high in oil and protein, which can be hard to find. So it's definitely something that I think that people can be eating and probably were eating. This is like what it would look like this time of year, kind of in this green and brown area. The seeds would be or like in their kind of formation process. Black walnut is considered medicinal as well as edible. People use black walnut tincture as an antiparasitic and use it in skincare. It can be used as a dye crop and is high in fats and in protein, which make it an important food crop for many beings, including the squirrels at my house. And this year is a mass year, so the harvest is really good. So I have a Wikipedia image because I forgot to take a picture of the actual tree, but this is a picture of me picking up and cleaning off the plants or the seeds. And then pokeweed grows well in edge habitats and fields. This plant has to be prepared carefully in order to avoid poisoning yourself if you're ingesting it. But the berries can be used as a natural stain, and some people use it in small amounts for medicinal purposes, but I'm way too scared to do that. So, but people eat the shoots and the leaves in the spring with careful preparation. So this afternoon, I'm excited to just walk around with people, whoever wants to walk around and just talk about plant memories and spend more time together in community, virtually and in person. And yeah, just hear a little bit more about other people's like plant experiences and what they're talking about, like our corn and our bee sisters and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and if anyone wants any of this Sing corn, I have some.
Absolutely, Cheyenne.